We'll call to order the council meeting for April the 21st. If we can have the invocation. Bobby here.
Let us pray. Father, we thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. We thank you for the wonderful weekend that we had and all the Easter festivities. We pray that you would be with the action that we take tonight. We pray that you would be with the mayor and the staff that work with our city. Keep our police and firemen safe. Pray that you would be with the children of this community. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, Nathan. Roll call, please.
Councilperson Smith.
Present.
Councilperson Zastavny.
Here.
Councilperson Payne.
Here.
Councilperson Sellers. Here. Council Vice President Gill. Here. Council President Julius.
Here.
Councilperson Glover.
Here.
Councilperson Owen.
Here.
Councilperson Samuel.
Here.
Let the record reflect that all council members are present.
Thank you. Approval of the agenda.
Unless anybody has an objection, I think we have a large group here for one agenda item. I'd like to move Patty Miller from new business number 2 up into, can we move them on up right after the report of the clerk?
Yeah,
That way they can
Patty Miller.
go if they don't want to stay for the whole meeting.
Which one is it?
It's new business number 2.
Okay, I'm sorry. You want to put it number 1?
Let's move it on up ahead of the department head reports, right after the report of the clerk. And if there's no other changes, I'll make a motion to approve as amended.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Approval of the minutes. We've got the minutes from the council workshop on April the 7th.
If there are no other changes, I make a motion to approve.
I'll second. That is the workshop council minutes, right? Put your motion for.
Yeah.
I'll be abstaining. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Then we've got regular council minutes from April the 7th.
I move to approve the April 7 minutes.
Second.
I'll be abstaining again. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Claims to be approved.
We have a few changes to the claims. If you turn to page 7, we're removing 2 items under parks. The Home Depot item that's garden boxes for $119.92. It's about the 6th one down. And then the very last one under parks for $109.99.
Where are those going?
Redevelopment.
Redevelopment.
Okay. And then I have a request for a City of Jeff sponsorship for $250 for Paint Our Town Purple. It's the 2nd annual event. It's on April 26th at Warder Park.
And what is it?
And that's going to come from,
Mayor's promotion, so it'll be City of Jeffersonville sponsorship.
right.
And then I had one other hand carry. This is for Sherry Hinault, attorney. This is for Indiana FOP matter. It's for $1,000, and we're going to pay it out of Lowett.
Yeah, and I do have one, and I probably need some guidance on the council on this because I anticipate some other additional claims will be coming before you in reference to this. We have a disciplinary matter in the police department in which we've agreed to have an outside hearing officer here that issue, and I don't want to get into the specifics. But we have, the hearing officer has done some preliminary work on the case. For example, some subpoenas he has issued, and it's a claim for $200 to Judge Donahue. My recommendation is that this is really just a disciplinary matter. It seems to make sense that this claim and future claims in reference to Judge Donahue in this matter be paid out of the Merit Commission budget.
Police Merit Commission?
Yeah, Police Merit Commission.
I agree. Let's talk to me about that after the meeting. I concur. I think that's the appropriate budget for that type of expense.
I agree.
Do we have an anticipated amount that we're looking at there?
Well, I mean, it won't be, it'll be a one-day hearing at the most. I would assume that 3 or 4 hour hearing, and he'll probably take, I would say 5 or 6 hours total when he does all his work. So, I mean, it's not going to be a real large amount.
So unless you have a 200 hand carry tonight?
Yeah, right there's just a $200. He's anxious to get paid.
So Amy, you
I
have
try to make him
the,
happy.
okay.
What's our new total?
Amy, you have the total with the 2 removals and the 3 additions?
Judge Donahue.
You're asking the wrong person.
I show 367, 130, 65 cents.
Again, what was the Lowett edition? I missed that.
It's
something
it was an Indiana FOP matter.
Arbitration.
Arbitration.
With the FOP and the administration, and the contract required us to go to arbitration, and we went to arbitration.
so that wouldn't come out of the merit as well.
Probably not, because it really did not involve the Merit Commission.
Okay.
That's how I got involved.
Okay, what would-
If it involved the Merit Commission, I wouldn't.
Well, why wouldn't that come out of the police, somewhere out of the police budget then, versus Lowett? I don't know. why-
Well, we didn't have it in,
I don't know.
Is there any line item that can be taken out of?
Out of their
I
own
spoke
budget.
to Chief Grimm, and he said they didn't have a line item for legal.
I understand, but I don't want to start paying for all these attorneys. They're just going to start breathing.
They don't really have a line item for legal.
It was really charged to the city of Jeff. It wasn't charged to the police.
Yeah, now,
that-
there will be contract and arbitrations when it says which.
It comes
so
from
it
the
haven't
city.
happened just as the city of Jeff.
Mhm.
Or the contract piece.
Right.
Our half as the state police department, just the
Right.
city of Jeff. But then it's up to the discretion of the council then to determine what fund on behalf of the city of Jeff. It's not necessarily a police department issue, it's the city of Jeff.
Okay. So how much was that par?
It's 1,000 even.
Yeah, I didn't think we paid out any fund.
Okay, and then getting back to the Lowett, for a flag of $34, shouldn't that come out of the department versus the Lowett money?
I haven't had that.
That's under the Lowett fund. It should just come out of the
What
regular
page?
operating budget, wouldn't it?
Michael?
12 to 15. 12, page 12. Not a lot of money, but... Huh?
34.
Well, it's not, it should come out about the money. Yeah, I mean, it should come out just regular operating budget, not Lowett's.
All of our operating budget's going. Supplies and services are all out of, that's a Lloyd line item for us. Equipment repairs and all that's Lloyd line items.
How much is in that Lloyd? That doesn't sound right.
I thought we moved the Lowett money into your budget line items.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's where it should have come out of.
Okay.
If you have that line item, this is a Lloyd line item. It's labeled as Lloyd. Is that right?
Well, it's out of Fund 430,
Got
which is low at budget.
What's that for?
a flag?
Nylon flag and Indiana state flag.
That should come out of the regular
Yeah,
budget.
it should come out of our, I don't have mine.
That's fine, that's just a correction.
Yeah, it should come out of that of our 430 account.
That's 430, but it says it's under Lloyd.
Yeah. It's not a lot of money, but it just should come out of their operating budget somewhere on a line item versus the Lowett Fund.
So Amy, will you move that one?
I can move it to
Can you
the
address
general.
that? And then we're taking 1,000 for the police, the grievance out of 430? Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
There's no other changes. I make a motion to approve the claims as amended for a new total of $367,130.65.
Second. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those, I'm abstaining. All those opposed?
Thank you.
Thanks, Amy. Report of the clerk.
None of these are in there.
Patty Miller. Do we have something on that?
No, we don't.
Good evening. I'm Patty Miller, and this is Michael Howard, and we are the theater directors at Jeffersonville High School. We are here to talk to you this evening on behalf of the cast and the crew for Smokey Joe's Cafe. And we brought our enthusiasm with us. As many of you have may have read, or hopefully have read, Smokey Joe's Cafe was Jeffersonville High School's fall production this year. And it was adjudicated by a national panel of judges representing the International Thespian Society. And we found out earlier this year that we were awarded an invitation to perform at the International Thespian Festival this summer in June in Lincoln, Nebraska, and that names us one of the top 8 theater productions in the country for high schools for the year 2013-2014. We have a very, very dedicated and talented group of students involved in Smokey Joe's. The cast and the crew are truly representative of the Jeffersonville community. And these students have worked their hearts out most of this year to raise the money for their individual fees for this conference. Now, the conference itself allows us to perform in a facility much the same as the Kentucky Center for the Arts. 2 sold-out performances, and in addition to that, probably one of the most important parts for me that's nearest and dearest to my heart is that our students will have the opportunity then to audition and interview with some of the best colleges and universities across the country. They will be sought out by the representatives from these universities who have very strong theater programs and attend these conferences yearly, seeing the top 8 schools as the ones who have produced the best talent for the incoming freshman year the next year. They will have multiple opportunities for scholarships, and this will open doors for them that they may never have had opened otherwise. So it's a very big deal for us. As people who work with an agenda and a budget, I know that you can appreciate the fact that we have had to put together a very structured budget for this trip. It would be nice if all we had to do was pay for our kids to attend the conference and the bus ride out there. Unfortunately, we have royalties to pay in order to perform the musical anytime we perform it. We will be taking over 4,000 programs, printed programs, with us. That's a requirement out there. We will be paying our lighting technician. We will be paying for lighting instrumentation to take with us. We will be paying a semi-truck and drivers, in order to get our set out there. We will be paying for our sound technician and extra sound equipment that we're having to move from here to there for the quality of sound that Smokey Joe's requires. And in addition to that, we are also paying all of our band members, because Smokey Joe's has a live band. We will be flying all of these people out there so that they only have to miss one day of work because they have day jobs as well, and we are putting them up in hotels. That's just a few of the expenses that add up to about $85,000 for us to move this show to Nebraska. With that said, we have had a great steering committee working with us that is comprised by 6 individuals who have been instrumental in coming up with a plan for us to help offset the cost. Derby Dinner Playhouse on May the 5th is joining with us by donating their space to us, and we are selling tables at different levels of payment in return for sponsoring a song. The people who pay for the table are given the seats for the table. I'm going to let Mr. Howard describe that a little bit more, but they will have the song of their choice named for them and performed for them at Derby Dinner that night. It will be a full buffet, and it should be a very, very enjoyable evening. We are asking that you consider becoming our title sponsor. The City of Jeffersonville has much to offer from Jeffersonville High School. And with new corporations moving into the city, a new bridge being built, we feel like being able to present the high school and its achievements is something that also benefits the city. And we hope that you will consider helping us.
Here are our flyers that we created for our gala. And
Patty, when's this trip take place?
June the 26th, I'm sorry,
June the 22nd through the 28th.
Yeah.
We really want this gala to be a community-driven event. We want our community to stand behind us, but at the same time, too, we want to give back to those businesses that are giving to us. So through this, we want to give them advertisement and show this is the community that stands behind one another and sees in our youth what the future can hold. So we really want that to be the main focus, to get these businesses behind us. This is not your typical run-of-the-mill, I'm going to buy a $10 ticket to attend something. We want this to be business-driven. So that's where we're hoping to have your support in that title sponsor to show that the City of Jeff is at the helm of this, and that we see that this is where we need to be, is behind our youth. And just reiterating the point that Jeffersonville High School really is where it's at. We have amazing programs at our school. These kids are amazingly talented. They represent all of Jeffersonville, not just a certain demographic yes.
Not just a certain demographic on the map. They are representative of the whole community. I would also like to say as well that if you have not seen Smokey Joe's Cafe, if you were not able to attend a performance in the fall, let me tell you that it is powerful and it is jaw-dropping what these students can do. I take no credit for this. This is the kids, and this is the level of talent that we have in this school. I don't know how many people I have had come up and say to me, I've been to New York a couple of times. I would have paid more for a ticket for this show than anything that I've seen on Broadway. It is a phenomenally difficult show. Our adjudicators were duly impressed not only with the quality of the show, but with the fact that we tackled such a difficult show. I don't know that it's ever been done by a high school in southern Indiana or Louisville. And these kids carry it off without a hitch. It's hard to believe when you're watching them that they're high school students. It's really amazing. I would also like to say that as title sponsor, if that is the course of direction that you decide to go or would like to become involved with, your name, City of Jeffersonville, City Council would appear on every program on the title page saying sponsors or produces Smokey Joe's Cafe. This would be true at Derby Dinner Playhouse. It would be true at the grand opening at Jeffersonville High School on the 9th and 10th, when we will have the banner ceremony, dropping the banner to illustrate that we have made this achievement. And they will also accompany us to Nebraska.
So yes, there's a lot of exposure for this as well. So the title sponsor will also read the City of Jeffersonville City Council presents Smokey Joe's Cafe at Jeffersonville High School. So you literally are the beginning of the title. I want to pull out one of the comments that one of our judges said, that looking at this show, I see some of the stars of tomorrow on that stage. And seeing that really, thinking that really had an impact on me. One said, it makes us proud to be thespians. Another one said, with a few tweaks, you have perfection on that stage. And so that's a lot of powerful words that we've received. And once again, it goes back to these kids. These kids they're the ones that drove this. So we thank you for your time, and we hope that for your sponsorship. Thank you.
We would also like to say thank you for hosting our students tonight who wanted to tag along. We know they kind of filled the room a little bit.
They should come more often.
Well, that could be part and parcel. Thank you all very much for hearing us.
What other fundraisers are you doing besides the gala?
We will be scheduled having car washes. The students will be involved in sales. The two performances that we have at Jeff High are also, will hopefully bring up the total that we've raised so far. And
we're also seeking auction items as well for this gala, to do a silent auction or an auction style with some prizes to be auctioned off. Yes, we'll be doing some other performances in the community as well.
Before we leave, we'll be taking the students to the river stage to perform. That will not be this. That will be, of course, no tickets will be sold to that. But we want the people of Jeffersonville, the city of Jeffersonville, to be able to hear, at least a few great numbers on the night before we leave. So. And then in addition to that, the students are making appearances at other places.
But you expect your gala to be your biggest fundraiser, correct?
That's our biggest fundraiser.
How much has been raised so far?
We are at about $11,000 as of today.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Before you all leave, just to your students, I came from your department. I mean, I was in your department when I was at Jeff High. And
2 years ago.
5 years ago, actually. 5-year reunion this year.
I had to say it, I'm sorry.
But doing what you all have done was something that we always wanted to do. And my class never got a chance, so I'm very envious of your opportunity. And very proud to see that the Jeff High Theater Department's going where it's going. Congratulations.
I'd just like to say that since Matt brought that up himself, I would just like to say that there's nothing to make someone feel quite as old as looking up and seeing two former students sitting at the seat of the city council members. So, thank you.
I'd like to make a motion that we become the title sponsor of the Jeff High Theater Gala for $5,000 to come from the gaming revenue.
Second. Any other?
One comment.
Yep.
When they're saying that if we do this, that would be listed as Jeffersonville City
It can't.
Council to sponsor
The
this.
city of Jeffersonville.
Yeah,
Gotta be
remind
listed.
the ordinance that we
Right.
passed regarding sponsorship, promotional, we're not identifying specific offices.
Right. We would just be sponsoring as the city of Jeffersonville, not the city council.
Amy, what's the total in gaming?
City council, special events. We always use that. We have to- But it's not hard. Ordinance covers it all, yes. We know that's how we always got it listed.
We have 226,000 appropriated. We have 190,000 in cash right now, but we'll receive our revenue in October.
Right.
What's our expected revenue in October, do you know?
270,000 or so.
800.
We have a first and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Congratulations.
I want to just add to it that my neighborhood is right by Jeff High, so their outings, their nights out are going to Jeff High Theater, and the phone tree lights up after seeing one of your all shows. They're like, you gotta see it, you gotta see it, oh my God, you gotta see it! And I'm like, oh, all the time, you gotta see it! So, congratulations.
We will be making sure that each of you receives some complimentary tickets. Of course, you will have seats for the gala, and we'll be in contact over that. But we do hope that you will come to the reopen at Jeff as well to see the show in entirety. We'd like to honor you all as VIP guests in our house that night.
And that is May 9th and 10th, just FYI.
Good luck, everyone. Council, just one quick thing. The night of the gala is the council meeting. Oh, we'll have to. Well, the next day we can't because City Hall's closed.
Because it's election day.
Yeah.
We
So,
go back.
just to bring that to your all's
Schedule the
attention,
gala.
because I think it would be nice to go to it, but I don't know what time it starts unless you want to have a quick meeting before y'all go.
6 p.m. says.
Well, maybe y'all want to have a meeting at 3 that afternoon.
Well, we might have to do something.
Yeah.
We'll have it at 5.
Yeah. Well, if it starts at 6, you only get there before.
Or is it
Anyway.
Derby dinner or Jeff High?
Is that the one at Derby Dinner or the one?
Derby dinner.
The Derby dinner, that's the big one on May 5th.
And with y'all being a title sponsor.
Well, let's kind of make a decision what we want to do here before we move on. Do we want, well, no, on the May 5th meeting, because it'll be here and
It's the next meeting.
It's the next meeting.
3 o'clock meeting?
so,
Sorry, what was that?
That's your 3 o'clock meeting? 4 o'clock? Lunch?
lunch?
Lunch, we could do a lunch one. Just change it to
Is,
lunch.
Do a lunch meeting.
Court in session on Monday?
go again.
Lunch meeting.
Would court be in session that day?
Court in
Sometimes
session on
city
Monday?
court does go past 12 noon, depending
Yeah.
upon their docket.
Late lunch.
Do a late lunch.
You want to do 1 o'clock? Okay,
Okay.
let's put it out for 1 o'clock.
Okay. I just wanted to bring that to your all's attention.
Thank you.
May 5th.
So it'll be 1 o'clock on May the 5th.
Officially rescheduled the time.
Yes.
All right, I'll do that.
And the only thing I noticed, just for council members, there's, with the gala sponsor, there's 8 tickets and 9 members. So we had to draw straws to see who's out.
Brian.
Well, they said that they would make sure that each of us got a ticket, so,
They'll be accommodating.
yeah.
Okay. I didn't see Ann here. Chief,
Chris?
are you taking Ann's spot?
Yeah.
He was like,
Front and center. Wait, do we have any department heads?
yeah.
To clarify this, Steve, you and I talked about this today. Is what is down under the department head report for Ann and for Chris, the same thing that you got us later?
That's what I was wondering, yeah.
Yeah, but at the meeting, at the finance committee meeting, they asked that, because Kim, we didn't know what she was going to be on, and for Chris just to come and kind of explain both for him.
I'm up here now, you're not getting rid of me, so.
Well, then we're going to come back and address it again when the ordinance comes up.
Well, but if
We don't have
it's,
to go into detail.
yeah, won't have to go into detail then, or is that less?
Well, it's just the police,
You need to
so.
concur with me on the agenda.
I think you were trying to help Ann if she was going to go in.
Right.
She's got
Yeah.
kids and she lives
Yeah.
in Louisville. I think that was
The idea.
the idea, if I recall.
So, go ahead. Okay. We're up here today, I'm up here today to request one additional police administration assistant and one administrative case management support. Those are both new jobs that we have developed with Kim's help for the new police department. Because we're losing dispatch, a lot of the stuff, the day-to-day stuff that dispatch does for us with NCIC, IDAX, a lot of the in-house stuff we do, we will no longer have that support there. So these two positions will help fill that gap at the new police department. One of the positions is an administrative case management support position. It's been needed for some time. The position will be assigned to the detective division, while also doing the duties of a police administrative assistant. Currently, the detectives don't have clerical support. The position will alleviate some of the time they do performing basic clerical duties, phone calls that can be handled by support staff. Detectives can concentrate more on their caseload and actually could potentially increase their caseload to if they're not having to manage some of the stuff that they do. The other one is just an administrative assistant. It's basically, that's the classification. It's basically the ladies who work the front window. We are going to a larger facility with more space there. And we have some other duties with telestaff and with some other things that they'll also help with management of those types of things. For this year, we actually have one of our ladies at the window who's retiring. It's not official yet, so I really don't want to get into too much detail with that. And we also did not replace a dispatcher this year, who retired also. So actually for this year, we would need to allocate no money for either of these positions, because that money is already in our budget to pay those two positions. Next year, when we come to budget time, we'll have to look at that and see where we are with dispatch, and because that will hopefully free up quite a bit of our 100 series money, moving them to Central Alarm. So we don't think that'll be an issue with that. So this will be two new positions and we want to hire them in June, so that both ladies who do these jobs now will be here to help them train these two individuals, and then when one of them retires in August, then they'll be able to fill in those positions, and then next year rehire for that retiree. So basically, the money is there to hire these two people this year. Next year, we'll hire another one to fill the retiree spot, but again, we can address that at budget time, and hopefully with Central leaving theirs, the money's there. So.
And the other thing to keep in mind is both of the two that we expect to retire, one's pretty much already I've already been pretty much notified. It's just not official. She's already planned her vacation. It's already scheduled. It's on the board. With the anticipation of upon her return from vacation, we'll have her notice that we'll actually have the 2-week notice. Both these individuals are pretty much at the top of the pay scale for their pay grades and maxed out for their longevity. So there'll be some additional savings with that, with the two new hires not being eligible for longevity and being at the minimum of that pay rate.
And then later, we'll replace the retirees also. These are actually two new positions, so I don't want you all to get confused that these two are replacing the two that are potentially retiring this year. These are two new positions that we feel we need to facilitate some of the things we're doing at the new police department.
Chief, if for some reason the two that you're anticipating retire, they change their mind, will you have to have more money at that point?
No, not for this year. We won't.
Not for this year.
Not for this year. No, because like I said, we had a dispatcher retire, and So,
Replace that.
and we didn't replace that, so.
You had talked about the NIDACs, or?
Right, we still have to have IDAX and NCIC in-house. We will maintain our terminal, and that'll just be for our, we actually probably run more NCIC IDAX stuff in-house than we do for our street officers, because detectives have to have criminal histories. Any arrest we do, all that has to be done.
But why I don't understand with the consolidation, why that wouldn't go with it.
Because
it's all software, computer stuff.
Correct. But it keeps that in-house. It keeps us so we can enter stolen weapons, we can enter stolen cars, we still will do all that stuff in-house. And you have to have, for IDAX, you have to have basically an IDAX certified, somebody who manages that. What will happen is, what our anticipation is if we enter a stolen vehicle, and Central Alarm would run it, if our officer stops it, Central Alarm would get that hit. It has to be certified back to the agency that is actually still in our records. So to task Central Alarm with maintaining records of every agency that reports a stolen gun or stolen car there, instead of us keeping it in-house.
So the two ladies at the window, they don't do that at all?
No, dispatchers do that now.
Is that something that, isn't that something that, with not being familiar with it though, isn't that something that the operations part of the consolidation needs to discuss? Because if that's the case, then every municipality now that has a dispatcher will have to hire somebody to do what you're saying.
It depends on how they're set up. It depends on, they may have secretarial people who do that now. So I can't speak for other agencies. Like the jail still has their IDAX NCIC terminal. Clark County Sheriff does, but they have jail staff that are IDAX NCIC certified, so they necessarily didn't have to hire somebody to fill those positions. And like I said, I can't speak for Clarksville, Charlestown, Sellersburg. I'm assuming they'll all have to hire civilians.
Have you all talked about this, Danny, or
No.
Kind of early yet?
We had, go ahead, Scott.
Dennis had asked me to look into that, that these two positions, based upon, the assumption is that these two positions are being moved because of the consolidation, and asked me to look at the interlocal agreement. It's not spelled out in the interlocal agreement about positions, employees, and how they're being moved and who assumes responsibility, but I've spoken with the other attorneys that were involved in that. My understanding, the way it was explained to me, is that those decisions have not been made yet, that the 911 interlocal agreement for all the different municipalities created an operations board and a fiscal board, and if you read the 911 interlocal agreement, that those decisions regarding employees and so forth are to be determined by those operation and fiscal board, and my understanding is they've not made those decisions yet.
Well, I can guarantee I'm going to lose my dispatchers. That's...
Well, we know.
Well, I'm
So,
not saying that's
right.
not going to happen, but I'm just saying, just from my viewpoint, the research that I've conducted, that it may be premature at this time until the operations and fiscal board actually decide how many employees are actually going to be moved from the different municipalities, including our own, into the central. My understanding is those decisions have not been made yet.
But the point of, but you're talking about two different positions. You're talking about a dispatch position, and you're talking about basically an administrative assistant position. So you're talking about two different...
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you,
That's
but why did they don't, this is just because we don't know what's going to happen with the
Right.
911. We don't know how many people they're going to hire, we had this conversation, or how many positions, we know how many they say they're going to need, but how many
Right.
they actually need, could be something different. What happens if they don't hire all of our dispatchers? Could they not fill in those two spots? I mean, if they didn't
But you're still going to have to pay them. You're still going to have to...
Yeah, but the
so
pay is...
the position on the is still going to have to be there. So
But you wouldn't have-
potentially, yes.
But you wouldn't have hired two people.
That's what I'm saying.
Correct.
We've got, I guess we've got a lot of, as far as the consolidation, and I think like Scott had said, there's a lot that hadn't been, and you're on the operations committee
Right.
too, there's a lot that evidently hasn't been discussed. And we've got the LOID money that Jeff is going to pay over 40% of our share into the operation. So it's going to be a substantial amount of money. I don't know how much it is, but it's going to be
Right.
pretty good, because we're the biggest city in the county
Right.
and all that. I don't want to get into, if we're going to save, and I don't want to say the term save, but let's say by the time you get rid of dispatchers, it's what, $450,000?
Right.
Ballpark?
Right.
Okay, but actually, we got to be careful, because we don't want to end up getting that $450,000 back up, and then we're going to turn around and be paying Lloyd money, so we're going to be paying two funds to do the same thing, possibly. does that make sense?
But you have to separate the positions. I mean, and this isn't necessarily due to consolidation solely. It's due to, one of the positions. I mean, we want all of these people who fill these 4 positions, when it's all said and done, to be able to do those things, plus do other things within the police department. And again, by hiring, I just want to separate. You have to separate central dispatch, which we know is going to happen, with the police department, because they are 2 separate entities. This year, it's the money's there. With 2 retirees, if next year rolls around and there's something different. Our problem is if you wait for the operations board and the fiscal board to say, well, you're not going to do this, then we're behind the 8 ball. Then I have 2 retirees and I have nobody to fill those positions.
They're veterans.
Yeah. So, and the other thing, and you talk about moving. Well, even if our dispatch stay here for another 6 months, we won't be here. The police department as a whole will not be here anymore. We may have a dispatch center sitting right back here because it's not cost effective to move them to the new building and then move them again to Central. So you're still talking about there will be a separation of the police department and the dispatch center, one way or the other, no matter how it pans out.
So under your budget, you're basically asking for 2 more people?
Yes.
Above and beyond?
Yes.
Regardless of what Central Arm and all that does, or the 911 dispatch?
Alluded to is that we have a group of dispatchers who have probably done a lot more than just dispatch. I mean, they have stepped up the plate and done a lot of administrative duties, and whether that's been taken for granted or assumed or whatever.
Our dispatchers work overtime and fill. We have several that fill those positions at the front window when there's somebody's sick, somebody's on vacation. We pay our dispatchers overtime to fill those positions. So we have, we're also hoping to save a little overtime in those positions too by hiring these other 2 people. So, because we don't have a pool to pull from. Once you move us out of this building, we don't have a pool to pull from. So then you start talking about bringing officers in to work overtime. Well, that's not real cost effective either. So,
if it makes you feel any better, the questions you all often ask is kind of funny, because if you were to ask Chris or Ann or anybody else, I mean, these are the questions that I sit and ask before we ever get here. It's not like Chris comes here, come up with these 2 job
I know, but we still need to ask them.
Oh, I know. But I understand that. I just want you to know that it's not one of those things that we just come and just say, hey, here, let's do this. It's discussed at length before it ever comes here.
Chief, when is the expected departure date from here to the new building?
1st of August.
Chief Grimm,
Yes, ma'am.
these 2 positions,
Man, I'll be shocked if I make
are they vital to your day-to-day operation, vital to the job that your police officers do?
Yes. And even more so when dispatch and the city separate.
We get, as a council, we all get pretty much politically beat up every time we expand the budget. And, of course, we don't have any recourse on that. It just seems like it's kind of a one-sided swing. So it's really hard to keep adding manpower, or costs. I really shouldn't say manpower, lady power.
Or manpower, you never know.
Or manpower. When in the same time, yeah, people power. When in the same time, because I appreciate what you're saying, I do, but at the same time, we're politically getting beat up for things that we do to try to satisfy department heads, because it does cost more money and it does elevate, whether at the end of the day, taxes, revenue, whatever the case may be. And it's unfortunate that that happens, that there isn't a cohesiveness between, but there isn't. And, it's just, and I'm not, I appreciate and understand everything you're saying. I get it.
And I think the other thing you have to look at on a financial level is also, like Kim said, you're taking 2 maxed out, top tier longevity, pay,
benefit days off, PTO.
Benefit, all that stuff they're maxed on. So, so it's like when you retire from the fire department. They don't bring somebody in to replace you making the same money you do. So I think there's.
I know, but we're not trading this employee with all this seniority and longevity for this employee. We're actually replacing these 2, which we're going to save a little money. However, these are 2 new positions, and that little bit is not going to offset the position.
Yeah, and I have a question for Scott and Les, because this is something when the 911 first came in, and it talked about pulling the funds from the city. We didn't know if it meant from our general fund, because the dispatchers, those were remember when we were talking about that, and it said the funds they were going to pull that from our levy, and we did not know if that was going to come from the Lloyd, or we did not know if it was going to come from our general fund. So you're saying we've got this extra money, we might not have it. And it's still not been clarified. So when you say we've got this money for we don't know, because we think the state might tell us, this is in your general fund, guess what, it's going with the dispatchers, and you're losing that from your general fund. So then we're actually going to be losing money.
Well, and that raised the other question too. Because right now we've got 9 dispatchers, which we only have 8, but we may only physically say 6. So remember, Scott, we had this conversation. You think the state's going to pull 9 dispatch funding from us, or the 6?
Yeah, I mean, we
That's
don't know
another
that's the
question.
problem. That's why, just from a legal standpoint,
Unless we go ahead and cut
questions
this
have not been
free.
answered yet. First of all, by the 911 board, the operations fiscal board, they got to decide how many employees, who they're coming from, what not in the state. We have no idea what the state's going to do on funding, so.
Well, even if-
The only legal
it shouldn't
justification
work
for the
that
2 new
way.
positions is not ordinary consolidation. I believe that's
That was my
premature.
second part of the question,
So the
Scott.
question, I think you have to separate, is this purely because of 911, which I think is premature, or are there other reasons? I mean, I think that's the...
Yeah, I mean, even if our funding's cut, he's saying we still need these positions. What if we don't fill these positions? What happens?
Well, if you don't fill these positions, I'll have 2 people retire this year that I'll have to replace anyway. And we'll basically we'll be understaffed at the new police department. And we'll fill, without dispatchers to fill those positions for overtime purposes, we're going to have a higher overtime payout. And that's
But
just being honest.
that's what I'm confused on. I get the trade-off for the retirees, but the 2 new positions that you're talking about that operates this stuff, why wouldn't that be absorbed in the consolidation? I mean, it's not fair to charge...
Because they're doing other things besides just IDACS NCIC dispatch jobs. These are, I mean, if you read the job descriptions, there's a whole lot more to them than just, that's one very small part of that job description.
And I guess, just to clarify, you have dispatchers now that you can access that will come in and do these jobs.
Yes.
You may pay them overtime, but they can do these jobs.
Correct.
When the dispatchers go away, whenever that is, you have nobody to do these jobs, so
Correct.
that's going to bring an officer off the street or somebody in to do this type of work.
That is correct.
So regardless of consolidation or anything, the only reason that consolidation affects this is we will no longer have dispatchers to fill these duties and responsibilities.
That is correct.
And real quickly on the administrative assistant pay grade 2, what's the range on that?
25,792 to 38,688.
And on the pay grade 3?
29,536 to 44,304.
And those are no longevity.
Right.
These new hires will be no longevity, correct?
Correct.
Nor would they have the 10 personal days of the 2 individuals that we anticipate retiring, because new hires in 2012 get 6 personal days versus the 12 personal days, the 10 personal days.
And you're wanting to hire these when?
June.
June. So 6/1 of hire date. And your 2 retirees, you're basically wanting to keep them on staff now, hire these 2 so you can train.
Correct.
And then replace the retirees, and we think they're
First
going
of
to
the
go first of...
August and October is what it looks like.
But you're looking, then you're going to have to replace them when?
Probably the first of next year.
First of next year. So, I see what you're saying. So this year we have the savings of the higher rate longevity pay compared to the new hires. Okay.
Correct.
And lack of dispatcher.
Yeah, and the lack of one of the, there's actually we have 10 dispatch positions. And one retired, so we have 9. So we didn't
That's not to
replace.
fill that.
I think if we decide to hire these, we can't even consider the money from the dispatchers. This has to be considered new money.
Sure.
Because we don't know.
That's just this year. I'm not talking about in the future. That's just
Well,
this year's
but
savings.
I have to think about the future.
Right.
So, I'm just reminding everyone, we've got to keep this is for the future, and we don't know if we're going to have the dispatch money that could be pulled. That's all I'm saying.
So there's a lot of, I understand, but there's a lot of unanswered questions.
Bless you. But I think the question to be asked is, I completely understand the fiscal side of it, but if we don't have these positions filled, so are we as a council okay with pulling officers off the street to fill these positions?
Well, this is my question. I mean, the chief has said that the people who are retiring are going to be training these people, and I know the one lady whose name I shall not mention. But anyway, if they're training them, they're not already doing some of these? I mean, I can't see the dispatchers answering calls for the detectives and taking notes for them.
What do you mean?
Well, because you said that these two retirees are going to be training the two new people.
Correct.
So they must already be doing some of this stuff that
No.
you're saying the dispatchers are doing.
No.
Then how are they adequately going to train them?
Basically for the IDEX part of that, they'll have to go to school. They'll have to go to training for the IDEX part of that. Where our current people will train them is on our records, all of our record software, all of our state traffic software, traffic tickets, everything that they do on the front end, that's what they'll train them on, and that's part of their job responsibilities. The detective part, that will be training that they'll have to have some kind of secretarial knowledge before they get hired. That's answering phones, but the hardest part of their job is software, record software, knowing fees, tickets, traffic accidents. I mean, there's that system that we use.
Do we have a pool that we're ready to hire from, or no? And would we assume that they're going to come in on the lower scale compared to middle or higher scale? I mean, I would think that these are...
I would assume.
If you don't have a pool to go from, I was kind of surprised that I read through the requirements and job duties that maybe there's not a preference for a Spanish speaker as an option.
We do currently have someone.
We do have someone on staff.
Oh, do you? Okay. Because it sounds like this position, at least the grade 3.
Yeah, but she won't be here.
Well,
She could be. She
I
could
would
apply for this
anticipate-
position.
I would anticipate several of the dispatchers applying for these positions.
I just thought that might be worth putting in the job description. Right. Especially because you mentioned they're speaking with the public and to answering phone calls. And
Right.
I mean, there's a significant amount of the population that speaks Spanish.
I agree.
That's fun to add that. You might want to put it in there somewhere.
Right.
There's preference or...
Yeah. If you go on a point basis, you get X amount of points for...
Well, then that kind of creates not that, I mean, anybody can apply for these positions, but we've got to remember if the dispatchers apply, then what are we going to do? Because then we're going to be really short on
I don't know,
dispatchers.
but I mean, what would most people do when they look ahead?
I'm
knowing
just
9 months they're not gonna
talking
have
to
a job?
I'm talking to the council, that if we're short, then of course we're going to have overtime then, because I can't see us hiring new dispatchers for a couple of months, coming in and being trained, because the 911 has to be done by next year.
Well,
Because it
from what
has
I
to be-
understand, they're wanting to try to move the dispatchers out when the police move. There may, in
Right.
August, there may be a small transition. They're not going to the new building.
I understand,
There
I understand
may be
that.
some time,
Right.
because I've, as
Well,
I
I
said,
thought it had to be done by 2015.
but as I sent an email to the council today, right now is being prepared and contracts and all the stations,
Right.
everything it's going as fast as it can possibly go and contractually to get ready for 10 working stations in that
Right.
building.
So, I mean, that would just be more money. That's my whole point, is that because then I know the police fill in when you don't have enough dispatchers.
Well, you could also use, if one of our dispatchers was hired for those positions, you could use them. I mean, they don't, just because they take another job doesn't mean they can't still dispatch. We could use them.
They're doing that now.
They're doing that now. Yeah, the one lady you're talking about that speaks Spanish, that's a dispatcher, she's the one who works the front desk for us. So she works both jobs anyway.
Okay. So you need an answer on this, correct? I'll make a motion to approve 2 new positions in the Police Department, Administrative and Case Management Support Specialist and Administrative Assistant 1.
Any other discussion? I guess on one hand, I support these positions. On the other hand, it seems a little premature.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say that. So I'm probably going to be voting no, but I'm not really against the idea. I just think it seems premature.
So then I guess we need a roll call vote.
Councilperson Smith.
No.
Councilperson Zastavny.
No.
Councilperson Payne.
Yes.
Councilperson Sellers.
No.
Council Vice President Hill. Yes.
That only counts one vote.
Council President Lewis.
Yes.
Councilperson Glover.
Yes.
Councilperson Owen.
Yes.
Councilperson Samuel.
Yes.
Yes has it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 yes.
Thank you all very much.
Thanks, Chief.
On and on. The building's gonna cost us another $1 million a year time it's settled down. You gotta pay utilities, insurance, liability.
Do we have any other department heads that want to speak before?
Yeah, Eric.
No, I knew that, but if we had any.
If we had an option, we might move you back.
Yeah. No, we wouldn't, Eric.
Just looking for an
I
option.
appreciate that. Yeah, I do appreciate you guys seeing me again tonight. In your packet, I hope you have something that looks similar to this. Mine's got some highlighted courses on it because I talked to President Julius today. I didn't want to, all of these courses that I put on here are courses and training at the very top that I have scheduled for 2014. Now, that's not all of the training I have, but these are the ones that I'm aware of now. The one thing I wanted to mention is all of those don't include travel. And that's what President Julius and I were talking about today a little bit was, so I wanted to mention the ones that did include travel, because the ones that don't include travel really, not that you guys aren't welcome to know about them, but they're not really a concern like the others. So the top two include travel, and then you skip one, and the next three have travel.
Can you go away?
Each one?
Yep, Mark.
Okay. The Vehicle Fire Investigator course, that's in Martinsville, and that includes travel. The PIO class, that includes travel. The National Fire Academy, actually, the travel is covered by the state, but the lodging is something that we'll have to cover, and that's just for one night. It's a weekend course in Emmitsburg. The next one is the Fire Fatality Investigator course. That will include travel also. The next one is the Indiana Emergency Response Conference. That will include travel. And then you skip 3 to the very last one, and that's the All Hazard Incident Management Team Conference in December, and that will include travel. So those 6 include travel. I have the money in my travel budget to cover these, and travel budget and training budget to cover these. But I wanted to bring them to the council so I didn't have to bring them to you one at a time. Councilman Glover and Gill had asked about possibly looking at amending the ordinance for the travel and wanted a list of agencies or state agencies that we currently utilize for training, and that's the next portion of that document in the middle. Those are training conferences and training institutions that we use regularly that you had asked about that, so you'd know, be aware of those so that they would be handled possibly in the ordinance opposed to individually. But any questions about the training?
I think one thing I want to add to that, sitting in the Board of Public Works and some of the department head meeting afterward, let's just use the word frustration, maybe the best way to describe it, from some of the department heads as to what really needs to come before us for approval. I think even Ms. Calabro said something about there's a training that really doesn't involve travel that has to go to Louisville. There may be some expense involved. Does that need to be approved? And it would probably behoove us as a council to put some sort of parameters on what needs to be brought for us. If somebody's going to go and spend $30 and travel to Louisville and come back, does there really need to be that council approval? Maybe if there's airfare involved, or if there's going to be overnight stays or something like that. But speaking to Chief Hedrick, we were talking about this, and there's a lot of these that are, I don't want to say mandated, but to keep up certifications that these people need to have these. And for him as a department head, he's going to have to keep on top of this to get to us 30 days in advance to get these scheduled and okayed. So There has been an unbelievable amount of frustration as to what needs to come before us, what is going to be okay. Obviously, the ordinance says anything that's IAC training that, we can go to that, which basically limits it to, city council members to go to that. So I would just hope that in the future, in the immediate future, we can look at that ordinance and see if we can't make it easier on some of these department heads to kind of manage their time so they're not spending couple hours a month just on travel.
Two things that I'll tell you that we discussed in the Finance Committee meeting. One was, and Eric has alluded to it here a little bit, we asked both departments, police and fire, to come up with some institutions that we could make the language broader so that they wouldn't have to do that. The other thing that I think I understood correctly is the majority of your training to stay in compliance is done here locally.
Yes, as far as mandated stuff, yes.
Right. So these are elective. So, we covered all of those bases, and one of our goals was just what you said in the meeting, was to broaden the language, which is what Eric has done here, is given us some things that we can give to Scott to incorporate into the ordinance, because we don't want to micromanage. We don't want to do that. It's not our job. I think what happened was, in a lot of departments, even in the administration, it got so loosey-goosey we had absolutely no control. And it's our job to kind of rein it back in and say, okay, how are we going to fix this? And that's exactly what we were trying to do.
And President, when you guys look at that, Scott, when you look at that ordinance, one thing that I thought about, that I talked to Councilman Glover about, is someone was to go to Indianapolis for a one-day trip, doesn't include any night stay, but they may eat on the travel ordinance is over 50 miles. Would that be, as an example, would that have to come to this board? Because it is a travel expense, though it's only a meal or two. That would be an example of, does that have to come? It's no night stay, but it is travel expense.
That's my point. I mean, if it's going to cost,
just an example.
If it's a $60 expense to the city, is it something that I think I need to sit there and drill down on, and you come to me 30 days in front of speaking from my perspective? No, I don't. If it's overnight travel, maybe. If it's airfare, probably. If it's going to be above a certain parameter, if it's above $500, yeah, I think that's something that as a department head that's coming in advance, we should know that's coming in advance. But, I think there are things that are pertinent to you that you need to do.
Well, I think the reason we're wanting to go ahead and pass these is so that doesn't have to happen.
And I don't disagree, but I think what we're trying to do is there's going to be, he's one department head, there are other 20 department heads that are going through the same problem.
And we've talked about this.
They're working on the
We've talked about
ordinance right
One of
now.
those meetings already where.
Right.
We haven't
you
seen
were there, I
them.
know.
We've already discussed. They're trying to get
That's
the
one day
language.
that I had actually, was my suggestion, that especially for the training for police and fire, if you remember, give us a list similar to what's already in the existing travel ordinance from 2008 about certain things like IACT and those state-sponsored training for elected officials where that's kind of automatic, the clerk treasurers or so forth. Anyway, that was one suggestion that I had made, so this is the first I've gotten one from either one, so.
Well, the only thing I'll add to that conversation is when they say we've already talked about this, we haven't talked about this. There may be a certain portion of we that have talked about it. So
I think we talked about it at our last meeting when we brought up the thing about the travel with the mayor.
Well, it sounds like that the council's on the right track in the way of meeting on that, and here's a list, and I'm sure Chief Grimm can get you guys a list of his agencies.
One more thing.
Yes, he said he would.
Excuse me, I didn't mean to interrupt, but Ms. Calabro and I, because we talked at the finance meeting, we've been working on a travel policy, because there is no travel policy per se, besides the ordinance, and we're going to sit down with Mr. Merkley. We found some stuff already for the policy. It's got the per diem rates, everything in it, but there is actually no travel policy per se, so that's something we were
Are you
also
sitting
working
down
on.
with Mr. Lewis as well?
I've sent it to him, yeah.
I mean, remember, there's a travel ordinance from 2008, but there are some things that are not in that ordinance that probably needs to be made a policy.
Yes.
Yeah. But just to remind, when the department heads kind of attack the current travel ordinance, I mean, kind of almost like they're We're talking about this group as it sits here today, actually did not pass that 2008 travel ordinance. They have to live by that travel ordinance, and I don't think anyone's saying they don't want to amend it, but it's...
Yeah, it's an ordinance that needs to be clarified.
Yeah, that travel ordinance is in place since 2008. It's not something new, just to remind
It's
everybody.
a prime example of anytime you do legislation for a knee-jerk reaction, you do bad legislation.
Yeah, so neither myself or Mr. Berkeley or this
Exactly what that
council
was.
did not pass that 2008 ordinance. I don't think anyone's saying it doesn't need to be.
I would just add that, Chief, thanks for this list. We'll incorporate it, I would assume, and try to expedite and speed this process up so it doesn't waste your time or our time. But the bigger thing I want to reiterate is, which we've talked about before, you said you've got the budget, you got the training budget, the travel budget. You didn't say the overtime, which it does. When you send people on trainings, it costs overtime. And in our finance committee, we talked about that, and
Some of them,
you can
yes.
send it to all of it, as far as I'm concerned, as long as you stay within your budget. That's all I care. I mean, send them as much training as you can, as long as it's within the budget. And that's my big thing, is just make sure that...
And I've had to make those decisions. Some of them affect overtime more than others, depending on days off and also positions that they hold. As far as the administrative position, if somebody goes, it doesn't require overtime. Or the fire marshal position, theirs doesn't require overtime all the time. That's a very flexible position. But no, all three of those line items certainly affect training, travel, and of course the overtime. While I have you guys, I did do some overtime work today, as far as not overtime for me, but overtime on the budget, as far as where we are in comparison to last year, and we're about $2,000. That was actually a lot closer than I thought. We're about $2,000 more spending on overtime than we were at this point last year, so it's pretty comparable. So,
And that's under the new third less pay, right?
well, yes, but not for the whole year. Yeah, I forget when did March 1st? When did that take place?
Been pretty close.
Yeah,
So-
yeah, you're right. I got you.
In overtime for Thunder, we actually did a little bit less than I thought. It was $8,250.
Good.
Any questions of the fire department, or do you guys have to vote on this? I don't know if you have to vote on anything I brought you today or not.
I would think we have to.
I would think we would.
Why would we vote on that?
For the authorized certain travel.
Because it's in the 30 days, maybe.
I got
So
you.
we would approve it now.
I just make a motion, we approve. It doesn't have an ordinance number, Vicki, or resolution. What do you want to put on
Well, it doesn't have
that?
to be an ordinance.
We're just approving these travel.
Just a motion to approve this JPD 2014 General Training Plan.
Second.
Any other discussion?
As long as it doesn't go over their budgeted travel and overtime.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Thanks, Chief.
All right, thank you. And Connie, when you mentioned the overtime, I just want to say that's, just so we're all clear, that is a very tough thing to manage. As far as down the road, we don't know what's coming in the future as far as...
And I realize
but
that, and I've had that conversation, and we've
So-
said that we've never denied overtime
Right.
to you all, but just want you to watch it
Sure.
when it comes to the travel.
Thanks.
Okay, we'll go to unfinished business. Less interlocal agreements.
I emailed you on that day.
Yeah. You just want to, they're out to the county, wait until they come back.
So we need a motion to table it again?
Yeah.
I'll make
Okay.
that motion.
Second.
I'll make a motion.
All those in favor? All those opposed? Last ordinance, first supplement to trust indenture, Armstrong Farms.
You all, council approved this, I think, the last meeting. This is in reference to a bond that was done back in 2000 for the development and construction of Armstrong Farm Apartments. The city's not on the hook for the obligation, but the holder of the bond, Armstrong Apartments, is wanting to rework the bond. Specifically, it's to adjust payments and also interest, but...
Do we need a second and third, or second?
What did we do last time? Do you
It's
remember?
not on here.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking. I don't remember.
I think you all did.
So let's, just to be clear while they're looking that up, they're not adding to the apartments, they're just
They're reworking their notes.
they're
They're refinancing their
Basically
loan.
reworking, they're reworking their
Okay,
notes.
because I wouldn't vote to...
Make a motion to pass 2014 OR 15 on the second and third reading.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed?
Okay, I'm passing this around.
Okay, under new business, this goes back to the Finance Committee meeting that we had on the hiring of firefighters. And we've got one retiring in May and one retiring in June, I believe. I'm sorry?
I think one was retiring in June, we're going to be going out in May, and we got one retiring in July. Is that correct, Eric?
One retires the end of May, and one retires the end of June.
Okay.
Okay.
So basically, June 1st, the last day of each month.
Two holidays.
And it was kind of consensus to the council, or to the Finance Committee, to go ahead and hire, or start the process of hiring. We have to get them identified by perf and so forth. And I know that the chief would rather hire them in the fall, but we've got a list. We've got candidates that have been on the list for a couple of years almost. And I think to save the overtime, which we were just talking about, it may behoove us to start the process to get two firemen in line to be brought up.
It's kind of redundant to not hire.
I
We
think-
need to add a motion just to, what? Make a motion just to go ahead and start the hiring process to hire the two firefighters that are replaced roughly in May and June.
Well, I think there's, when I spoke to the chief, there was a valid argument for waiting based on some new restrictions and requirements on what the application process is for the new list. If we hire now off the current list, the applicants that we hire, we are responsible for sending them off for their testing. If they fail, they get 30 days, to retest. If they fail again, they get 30 more days to retest. And I think the last time we hired off the old list, we spent, 90 days on somebody that ultimately didn't get hired at all because they couldn't pass their test.
That sounds like poor selection.
To the top of the list. But they were at the top of the list.
The last,
and that was a 2-year-old list too. It was a similar circumstance. Whereas now, the folks that will be on the new list are required to have this testing ahead of time before they can ever apply. So there's no risk of failure.
What testing are they?
the Mayor Commission, when they did the guidelines improvements 6 months ago, they required that the new hirees that are applying for this process that's coming up, that they already have their certified physical agility test, their CPAT test, and it's given up in Indianapolis, and it's given every maybe couple months, every 6 weeks? But and the key to that test is it's a physical agility test. You need to give them 30 days to prepare for the test, and if they fail it, they have to have 30 days and pass again, and then you give them 30 more days to take it again. We went through that process with a candidate last time that never ended up passing. The new process, they have to have a current certified CPAT that they've already passed in order to fill out the application. So those folks that are coming, which that list will be ready in July, will already have that part of the process done. And that's why I wasn't pushing it to the fall, maybe July, August, maybe mid-July, late or early August.
You said October.
But I didn't know when the testing would be done. The testing date just got set the first Thursday.
It's when?
June 7th.
I think we need to go ahead.
June 7th is the testing date.
Somebody want to hire that's not on it currently.
So we're talking, when we talk about overtime, when these guys go off, one at the end of May, we'll be paying somebody overtime to fill that spot until our new guys come online.
That's very possible.
So whether we pay somebody to fill his spot while we're testing somebody that we've already hired and are paying because we've hired, we could just pay somebody to fill that spot until, while we're waiting, not paying someone else.
The gap between the actual start date between the candidates is going to be a lot closer because the person on the second list, the newly list,
will already be.
You already have some of that stuff accomplished.
Right.
And that new list will be completed when?
The test is June the 7th, correct, Kim? And then they interview, and then they certify the list. The list that's out there now expires July.
When will the new list be certified?
I would guess upon the completion of the interviews, which will be mid-July. I'm thinking August the 1st.
I'd say if the one that's sent them in Annapolis and they don't pass, then the merit board takes it out of their budget. Hey, make them, if that's a poor decision, make them pay for
And
it.
they were supportive of us going to start in the process, so if new information was brought, we discussed this in finance.
Okay.
And apparently there's conversations that are going on, so I don't know. I say,
Well, there's no hidden conversations going on. It's just
no, there's this new, we were told October, we didn't know anything about the July and the...
Well, the reason that I said October, Lisa, if you recall from those minutes, is because I wanted to hire 3. Do you remember that? I said I wanted to hire 3, and the reason I used the October date is because we have another subject that's going to retire in February. So I was trying to meet in the middle between the June retiree and the February, so we hired all 3 together so we could train them all 3 together. Do you recall that? That's why that October date was mentioned at one time. We were talking about hiring 3 at that point.
What is the process, Chief? We have, I don't know how many on the list currently. They've been on the list for a while. Do they remain on the list when we get the new list? Do they get kicked off?
No,
They have
the
to
list-
reapply?
They'd have to requalify.
The list expires, and there's a new list established. They may be on the new list, they
may not.
If they apply, if
they have to have their CPAT, so many of them may not have their CPAT, so they wouldn't be eligible.
So you got to go through an interview, they have to be tested, and then they would make the list and be certified.
Correct. The process is actually fill out the application, take the test, interview, certified list.
Legally, can we ask the Merit Commission to, when they go to look at the new hires that are currently on the list, to weight it where they have these qualifications, the CPAP and all
I
this?
think that's under the statute and all that, that's their kind of discretion on that. You can make a recommendation, but I don't think you can force that on what qualifications.
It would be just like them recommending with them, we hire 3 people now, we'd say, well, that's a great recommendation.
What the finance, who met at the finance, real quick? You and Lisa, and you all 3 met, and you all agreed, from what I've read, to move forward?
We wanted to, start the process, whatever the...
And then Nathan, would you like to add a recommendation?
Yeah, well, for clarification, we can't hire.
We're not know that.
Well, I agree that we can't make a motion to tell them to.
No.
Right.
Authorizing, either
Right.
recommend to start it now, or it's like a motion to authorize the funding for the positions. It's those type of motions, not...
Is it the Merit Commission that starts that process, the chief starts the, what's
I think I start the process, the executive starts the process with a request to the merit board.
Ultimately, it's an executive and administrative decision whether or not to hire new firefighters.
Right.
So we could go ahead and make a motion to start the process, and if the mayor,
And if
the
you decide to
administration
wait,
decides to wait to make the new list, then he can use the new list.
I'll make a recommendation that we go ahead and start the hiring process, as well as make the recommendation to the Merit Commission to include the qualifications or the certifications in, when they're getting ready to hire, that they consider that of highest importance or of high importance, however we need to phrase that. And
I think once the list is established, it's established.
Right.
It's certified.
Whoever's next in line is who's getting hired.
That's
still going to be my recommendation.
Sounds great.
It sounds good. Yeah, I mean, nobody might listen to it, but that's still what I think how we ought to do it.
I will second it.
Did you?
Any other discussion?
Was it seconded by?
So what's the motion? To authorize the chief to hire?
Yeah, to recommend we move forward with hiring of 2.
I'll make a couple comments. It's kind of strange because usually we're in a hurry to hire somebody.
Yeah.
So it's kind of strange that we want to slow it down because usually we want to hurry and hire somebody to reduce overtime, make sure the manpower is where it's at. So it's kind of unusual for us to slow it down. But I understand the reason why the chief says that. I was going to throw proposals out there, just kind of split the difference and maybe hire one person now from the old list. And I recommend we hire one from the old list, and that way at least we'd cover that first person and maybe hire another one later on.
And what happens with that, Councilman Z, is that when you hire one, you wouldn't want to start that training process. It's about 10 weeks long for their medical training, depending on what qualifications they have. You'd rather train them together. So he ends up waiting for the next one. That's what I wanted to hire 3, 1 early and 2 late was my October suggestion to the Finance Committee was that. But that's...
So Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds to me like all this is a moot point. All we can do is authorize the chief to go ahead and start the hiring process of 2 firefighters, and then the administration can decide when they want to make that process start. Is that correct?
As long as the funding's there, yeah. I mean,
So all we're doing is authorizing the funding.
Unless it's an issue for new funding, then that's under your all's total control.
I don't think Chief Hedrick would, I mean, realistically, I can't imagine him, he knows what we haven't voted on it, but majority of the wishes is we want to move forward. And if he wouldn't, I'm just saying, and if he wouldn't hire, he's going to get in some overtime. And he's going to have to come back and ask us for overtime, and it would be kind of, I mean, I can't imagine him putting himself in a position of costing a lot of overtime money if the vote goes majority that we want him to hire. He can do that, I get that. But then he's setting himself up.
But he's going to be in the middle of the administration and the council. The council can say, we release the funding to hire new people. If the administration doesn't allow him to start the hiring process until July 31st, he answers to the administration. All we're doing is providing the funding. Well, he answers to us for the funding. We're releasing the funding.
And I think the council may still not understand the reason for the delay is they will have their CPAT. If we hire somebody tomorrow, I've got to get him trained 30 days, get him scheduled up in Indianapolis to take his CPAT. If he fails it, 30 more days. The folks on the other list, which may be ready August the 1st, I'm going to push, I've got to meet with the Merit Commission. The test is June 7th and they interview. They already have all that behind them. It is theoretically possible that somebody we hire tomorrow wouldn't be eligible to work before someone we hired in August if they were to push the past. You know, we've had people fail.
Right.
Quite often.
Most people fail on the first time, on the first attempt, because they don't.
And then I pay to send them back and train them and send them back, and that's
off the new list puts us at least 60 days.
We required them to already have all that.
Right.
I just call for the motion.
So would you restate your motion, please? You were making a recommendation that we start the hiring process, and we recommend that the Merit Commission at least look at those who may have passed their testing and put them at the top of their special list. Okay.
Special list.
Very special list. I'm just trying. And we had a second.
That's
Okay, do we want to take a roll
Yeah,
call
we'll take a
vote?
roll call.
Councilperson Smith.
Yes.
Councilperson Zastapnik.
Yes.
Councilperson Payne.
Yes.
Councilperson Sellers. Yes. Council Vice President Gill.
Yes.
Council President Julius.
Yes.
Councilperson Glover.
Yes.
Councilperson Owen.
Yes.
Councilperson Samuel.
Yes.
What's the problem? All that over what?
All right.
It's like pulling teeth.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Next item, Ms. Calabro.
John K. Tevering.
So you want an employee?
Okay. You should have a copy of the job description. I think Vicki handed out right before the meeting. I apologize. I don't think I gave that to her before the meeting packet. But one of the positions that we are looking, we currently have a position at the animal shelter, and one of the things that Charlie and I have talked about is that her name's Tanya Ellis, and she's kind of working in a capacity that she's kind of always been hired under the animal control officer position, but not working an animal control officer position. So we have talked about what does she do, and once we've made the transition between the former director, Sarah Green, and Charlie, we tried to figure out what is her position going to be, what are her duties going to be. So Charlie can talk a little bit about that. The good news is, I don't think it's going to cost any extra money.
It's not going to cost us any money. When I came on, Tanya was in between me and Sarah. She was pretty much running the show.
She worked as the interim director in that transition.
But her position is actually being paid out of animal control officer. So it's one of the things I talked to Kim when I came in that we needed to change immediately because her title says animal control officer, but yet she was running the shelter. And so we went through and made a job description, went over it several times, talked to Tanya, took out some things, added some things, and to help her to do her job better. She's already getting paid out of the animal control officer's funding, which will shift around once everything's been approved. I did ask for a pay increase, but I have that extra money sitting in overtime currently because overtime, we've cut nearly 3/4 of the overtime right now with the staff.
And her pay grade would go from a pay grade 2 to a pay grade 3, which would be kind of makes sense for that pay increase, plus those increased responsibilities. She's almost kind of second in charge without having an official position as assistant director. And then through the finance committee, we met, and they pretty much approved that. And in lieu of that, what we would do then is under the animal control officer position, you can see on page 3, we would take that from 3 animal control officers to 2. Charlie's pretty hopeful that things will be able to stay as is. If there's a need for any additional
officers, I would come back and present that.
That'll kind of help offset that. So basically, what he's saying is if he looks at the budget between now and the end of the year, there will be no additional dollars that need to be appropriated for the animal shelter for personnel.
I've talked to the county attorney the other day, and I know that they have put together some prices to the other municipalities to kick in a percentage and share into the animal shelter. And I also asked him if they are going to put together some type of a representation, I don't want to say a board necessarily, but a representation of the municipalities to try to manage some of this stuff, because we're making the sole decisions on a lot of this stuff because we pay the lump sum. And he said that that's coming.
I got contacted by one of the commissioners the other day, and when I first came in, I reached out to the commissioners and wanted to talk with them and just throw some ideas out about doing some merging, doing some things different. But the beginning was there was too much finances. Of course, then the interlocal agreements were being negotiated.
Right.
They didn't really want to discuss anything until then. He called me the other day. I told him in a few weeks I'd love to sit down with them again, start talking about some ideas, see where they are as a county, what they're willing to do, and how we can make things run a little smoother, because I have no say or anything concerning anything outside the city of Jeff, even as the director.
So would this be something that, and I'm not trying to postpone you, but is this something that when you meet with them, would it be something good to get the other input before we do this?
Well, the problem right now is currently she's already doing this job.
Right.
The only thing I'm trying to do is change her title to make it correct that she's not actually an animal control officer.
Yeah. If I could point out that the county's already approved the interlocal agreement.
The dollars.
Well, there's an entire agreement that's done with the county.
And we need to sign that, right?
Okay, and it's going to come to you all at the next meeting. Okay, and then we will then deal with the other entities. But I wanted to get the county out of the way, and Tanya and I just that's the reason why I wanted to do that. So, pretty much done.
Hey, can you explain the financing real quick again? This isn't, I mean, I've heard that's not going to cost, so I want to...
Well, what it is right now is she is currently making her salary as an animal control officer.
Okay.
So her money's already been budgeted from last year to this year.
Okay.
So all I'm going to do is move that money over to this new position, and then I was allocated $45,000 in overtime pay. We're right now using approximately $1,500 a month in overtime pay.
Okay, just devil's advocate.
Yes.
Since we've made a new job description, are we supposed to advertise, or can we, for that?
No, she's basically working in the capacity of what we call an operations coordinator. And part of the process that we do behind the scenes, again, before we ever come to you, we have like this, we have a job analysis questionnaire. It's called a JAC. And it's a 10-page document that if we are trying to figure out what does this person do, we give that to them, and their responsibility is to fill that out. Basically, we ask them to take about a week to fill that out, and they go through their day-to-day functions in terms of I spend 10% of my time doing this. Am I bending? Am I lifting? Am I getting in and out of the car? Am I making decisions? Am I reporting to who? Am I required to type reports? It's a very, and I'd be more than happy to share hers with you, description of what they do on a day-to-day basis. I then get that document and give it to whoever their supervisor is. They have to say, oh my gosh, they're crazy, they don't do that stuff. Or they have to say, wow, she does a whole lot more than that. We need to add to that. And then we get together and discuss that. Then that's when we give that to the third-party person who actually takes that position out to the market to try to figure out what does this person do compared to other, quote, animal shelters? What do they call them? What are their pay grades? What do they pay them? Which gives us then the title and the pay grade. So it's a very complex, I mean, we've been working on this for probably 6 months.
Yeah, we started this right after I got here. Because the fact of it is her title is animal control officer. She doesn't do...
She's not working as animal control
She
officer.
doesn't do any animal control.
And what's the ordinance number on this?
And then here you have 3 animal control officers, you're knocking that number down to 2.
Right.
And all you're doing is changing her
Too
title.
with that piece in mind that we're not...
And that title was already in the old budget. It was just, there was nothing in there. So that's why I stuck with that operations coordinator position.
I'll make a motion to pass 2014 OR 19 on the first and second reading.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie.
No, we've got the, I wish that were it.
Oh, now.
You wanted to remove
What
the
was-
common law section 2?
We passed it. We passed it.
Oh, yeah, passed, the whole thing passed.
Oh, really?
You don't even have to worry about
You were asleep back there,
Oh,
I think.
confuse me.
And you were trying to give us a hard time.
You're done.
Yeah.
Okay, Amy? No.
This is an ordinance of additional appropriation you're seeing for the first time. I can go down through the items if you'd like to hear what they are.
Yes, please.
The first 2 items are salary-related items under the engineer. Basically, Andy had an employee that changed from exempt to non-exempt, and so there was no on-call or overtime budgeted prior, and we wanted to add that in for this year. The next 2 items were presented at the Finance Committee by Kim, and they were given a favorable recommendation. She can probably speak to those if you'd like to hear more.
And the list of what she was asking for is in your packet, too.
And then the last item is the code red. I was asked to put that back on.
Yes.
It's my understanding it was negotiated for a 2-year contract.
That's correct, and I called each council member.
No, it's a separate sheet. It was the files that Kim wanted, which are much
Personnel files.
better, and I can't remember, what was the other thing? Do you remember? Filing, the filing cabinet to put the files in, that would be important. So,
She had the money in her budget.
she has, yeah.
Yes.
Why did we have an employee go from exempt to non-exempt?
I don't know why this is their best.
Kim?
I think it's one of those.
Which employee is it?
She's saying no, so.
No?
So does this mean are we paying what we owe?
Are we going to get into on-call trouble?
This
think
is,
that's what they're trying
this is some that we've already paid out, but this is what Andy says he'll need to get through the rest of the year.
Okay.
And one of the things also to clarify, on-call pay, we are working very diligently right now to address the on-call because in the past, not only this administration, prior administration, on-call pay, people, liability issues in the city. We are working right now to rewriting employee handbook, a section on call that will really limit the on-call, which departments have on-call, and then ultimately come from the council. But it was basically a decision, really, this person should have never been. This person.
They were just kind of, they were treating him as exempt, even though
And
job
they should not have been.
description
All
said
employees are
non-exempt. Yeah.
non-exempt. You just can't put that label on it.
They didn't mention electrician in FLSA standards, so.
Is this a public hearing?
No, public hearing's May 5th.
Yeah, it's going to be advertised, I think, for May 5th, so I think it's going to
Yeah.
on first reading on that.
Kim, any of those things you could bring to the finance meeting when we have them, that'd be great.
This is ordinance
Pretty
20.
much through most of that. Part of it, and that's what Andrew's going to tell you, it was a new BS&A system. Finance has never seen, like, the HR side, and HR's never seen the payroll side. It's kind of like everybody's worked independent from one another. You've never been able to see both sides. Well, now, from an HR standpoint, I can see the finance side, so we can actually see that and catch those, and I think this is pretty much one of the last catches. I mean, we've been pretty good, but we've got most of that cleaned up, which that's probably been some of the controversy that you guys have heard about. Pay and exempt and non-exempt.
Is that ordinance number
salaried
20?
and-
I'll make a motion to pass 2014 OR 20 on first reading.
Second. Any other? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Scott, can I ask you a question? Since the notice of taxpayers says 7 o'clock.
Is there any public comment?
No, because that's just when our meeting starts, and then you don't have to start.
We changed it today.
Oh, because you're saying we're moving it to 1 o'clock.
May 5th hearing.
That's what you're saying, the 1 o'clock.
If not, we need to amend that to make it 1 o'clock.
Yeah, thank you, good job.
I know.
I thought you
That's
meant we have to start exactly at 1 o'clock.
All right, we've got public comment. Ed Hack.
Even though I'm not here all the time, I do watch y'all on this mainstream and all. And there was a comment made that my girlfriend made on Facebook about the mayor's doing a fine job about the sewer, and it's the council's fault that it's not coming along better. I educated her on that. I've worked with the drainage board quite a bit. I've worked through the sewage. I know how hard y'all have worked to help us. And she doesn't like to really get into the politic part of it. She just likes to, oh, that's my friend, you know, because I know him because he has no. But the people that I work with, I know their heart, I know their intentions. And they're all good people, and y'all are good people. And you get beat up on, like Mike says. You know, you get accused of stuff that's not your fault. And I know for a fact that that's not y'all's fault. And I would like to apologize on behalf of her for that.
Oh, well, thank you.
Thanks, Ed. Reverend Kenneth Gallagher. I did it right. Golly. Amen.
First of all, I just want to say that I commend you, ladies and gentlemen. I've been to only one other council meeting and actually sat through the whole thing. This being the first one, I sat through the whole thing. And I commend you on what you do. When it comes to running the affairs of the city, you do a great job with the concern of the city. My job as a preacher is the concern for people. And that's why I'm here tonight. I go to the Haven House every Friday and bring them a word and bring them counseling and bring them just the ear. And some of the things that I've seen at the Haven House have kind of saddened me, the conditions of the Haven House. So with me being concerned, I made a few calls. I called the mayor's office because I wanted to speak with the mayor to see if there was some way that myself and him could get together and maybe make the conditions better. I not only am a pastor, but I have a human and civil rights organization that I'm starting called the Encounter Coalition. And what we do is we go out and speak for the people that feel like they don't have a voice. And that's why I'm standing here tonight. There were many that wanted to be here with me tonight, but they were afraid that they wouldn't be heard or they would be kicked out of the Haven House with nowhere to go. I inquired to speak to the mayor, and I was called back the next day and said that he had a task force that he put together. Well, I spoke to a lady from the task force, and she was uncomfortable to answer some of the questions that I asked, and I couldn't understand that. That's another reason why I'm here tonight. The city of Jeffersonville is a great place to live. I've lived here for over 20 years. This time. The time before, I went to East Line Elementary School, Ewing Lane, Parkview. I went there. I love this city. But I know that there's more to this city than what I see here, the money part of it. I know the money is a big thing, and I'm not here to ask you for any money tonight, so you can rest at ease on that one. It's not about the money. It's about the people. That's what makes Jeffersonville great. You saw these kids come in here that perform. That's Jeffersonville. They giving Jeffersonville a name. You people sitting up here on this panel, you're not sitting up there because you just want to. You're sitting up there because you're concerned about this city. The city is its people. And there is a wide range of people at the Haven House that have no idea what they're going to do tomorrow. And they have nowhere else to go. There's no shelter in Clarksville. There's no shelter in New Albany. The next place for them to go is across the bridge. And I work over in Louisville as a security guard. And where I sit, I get homeless guys come in, homeless women come in to warm up in the winter and find someplace cool in the summer. And I've heard the conditions of the shelters over there, and they're terrible. There's kids over at the Haven House, and when you see them and you get to talk to them and you get to feel what they're feeling, you start to question, why isn't anything else being done? I know the money is tight, but all I'm here tonight to ask you to do is just be concerned. Be concerned, because they're part of Jeffersonville. They vote. They just need somebody to hear what they have to say. They need somebody to be actively involved with them. They need some kind of program that will help them, because not all of them are there because they want to be. Some of them have made some bad choices, drugs, alcohol, whatever it was. Didn't do right by their money, didn't do right by their family, and ended up there. But then there were some that just received the short end of the stick. Lost their job because their job went out of the country. Whatever it may be, they're there and they have no idea where they're going to go from there. They need some programs. They need something to help them feel like a human being. So I come here tonight to ask you, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know when the last time you went to the Haven House to just check on the conditions of things. I don't know if you know the lady that runs it. I don't know. I don't know if you know the lady that's over the task force that couldn't answer my questions. Or she could, but she said she felt uncomfortable with answering the questions. I don't know. Maybe that's something you could look into. But maybe we can do something if we can pull together, because Jeffersonville is not just the ones that pay the taxes. Jeffersonville is not just the ones that live in these nice suburbs. I live in Oak Park, in the townhomes of Oak Park. I love it there. But I'm just one check away from being over there in the Haven House. I'm standing here before you, a man with no health insurance. Signed up for it, got denied. I have high blood pressure. I have high cholesterol. I need, but I don't worry about that because I trust in the Lord. But there's others out there that don't have a clue.
You had mentioned earlier about why isn't there other communities, Clarksville and New Albany, that isn't being part of this challenge? I mean, I think that needs to be asked, and I think these other communities, because the city of Jeffersonville recently, through some council members or whatever, raised well over $100,000 to pay off a sewer bill, so they wouldn't get their so they wouldn't get their water shut off.
And this was the first stop. This was my first council meeting here tonight, because I've only been going to the Haven House for about a month. I've just recently started to see and understand, because when somebody new comes in, they're not quick to talk to you. But when they see you coming back and see you wanting to be involved, then they start coming. This is why it took me so long. Yes, I am going to go to Clarksville. Yes, I am going to go to New Albany, because I don't have any concern about what people think about me. That don't matter. People are going to like what I have to say, or they're going to hate it. That's their choice. My choice is to do what I feel is best for them. And what's best for them is to let people know that there is an issue. There's a lot of homeless that don't even stay at the Haven House because there's no room. That was exit 0. There's a train that they stay in now, over behind Kitchen Compact. But that is getting ready to be locked down, from what I understand from the people I've been talking to. they're going to padlock it and put them out.
Mr. Geller, if I could ask a question. You said that the task force could not answer a question. What was the question?
The one question I asked her was, would Jeffersonville consider another shelter? And she told me, I don't feel comfortable answering that question.
A new shelter?
A new shelter or renovating the one that's
Okay,
there
that's what I thought you said.
or what have you. I know that that's money. But right now, I'm just trying to get the concern out there. Because I think with concern, there comes conversation. With conversation, somebody can come up with a solution. Something that we can do. I know I'm not the only one that's concerned about that. You, as members of this board, are concerned about the people. Y'all, the money is just the issue that you have to face and deal with. This is what these gentlemen are here for, to make sure everything is run decently and in order. But when there's people that are still suffering, you know our prisoners, is the police chief still here? There you go.
No.
Our prisoners are getting better taken care of. How is that possible? Is it just because they're in the system and the system can pay for it? All I want to do is come and put a bug in your ear. I don't need your money. I have faith. And faith will open doors. So all I wanted you to do was hear this tonight. I've sat through this meeting and I've heard a lot of money passed along y'all's table. A lot of money. It blew my mind. I didn't know. Because I don't take the time to sit in on city council meetings. To me, they're boring. I don't know how you do it.
Most of the time we'd agree with.
But my point is this. If you take that much time to put in concern about the money, take that much time to put in about the people. Because it's the people that bend their back to make that money. And some of them want to, but there's just not an opportunity. What can we do? That's just food for thought. When I go back to Clarksville and New Albany, I will come back here and let you know what they say, if they can say anything. But I don't understand. There are homeless in Clarksville. There are homeless in New Albany. Where do they go? Do we push them over to Louisville? Wouldn't it be great if people would say, you know, Jeffersonville, Indiana is a great place to live because they are concerned about the people?
Mr. Geller, I could answer the question for you. This group was supportive and had some action. Even Councilperson Owen went along up and helped organize a meeting up in Indianapolis to determine what does a shelter need to look like and be like in Jeff. And we're getting the wheels going on that. And then there's some things happen with Exit Zero and some of our homeless population. And then the mayor started the task force. And so we stepped back. We said, okay, let's let the task force do their work. And I think we're still waiting on the task force to do their work. And so we probably need to get an update, get the task force to come here and give us an update. But the answer to your question is yet, I think anything's on the table and open because we felt like we see that there's an issue in our community and we're trying to address it. So I don't want you to think that question cannot be answered. We don't know the exact answer, but yes, certainly we're open to it.
I'm glad you came because I feel like we haven't done our diligence following up. Nathan's right, we need to follow up with the task force and ask them for an update.
Well, if there's anything that I can do to help you, you have my name and my number on that sheet that's somewhere around here. You can call me. I want to help. That's what I'm here for. So don't hesitate. Whatever you need, if I can't do it, somebody else with me can. And I know Christ can do it all.
Reverend, you might put your phone number on there.
Okay.
And thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move to council comments. Mr. Smith.
Now, just one basic comment was the two firefighters that are leaving, some of you may or may not know of them. One of them is Joe Lee. Joe Lee's been on the fire department for many years. Steve Case has been on the fire department for many years. Both of them are old school firefighters. They're the kind that go in and fight fires internally. and believe me, they're going to be hard to be replaced, and they will be missed. That's all I want to say.
Just want to let everybody know that on this coming Friday at 6:30, we're going to have a ribbon cutting for the Premier Turf Field. This is a ceremonial ribbon cutting, 6:30 p.m. on Friday. 6:30 p.m. on Friday. I'm working to put out a press release, and it won't be very long. Afterwards, there'll be a game to be played at 7 o'clock. Hopefully people can stick around, watch it under the lights. That's all.
So Connie. Connie?
Yeah, I do. Trivia night is the same night as the ribbon cutting. I forgot about that until Ed mentioned that. So that's at 7 o'clock, and we have a table, and I need to know who all's going and who isn't going, so if you want to get with me after the meeting, that would be great, so we can figure out that. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is that Lisa and I go through the claims every 2 weeks or whenever they're put together, and we're still having issues with the credit card. The receipts are not being signed, like when they go out to eat or whatever, telling us what it's for, receipts, and it has to be the full name, and it has to be legible so it can be read, because we're not the ones, we might know who the people are, but we're not State Board of Accounts. And so, just to clarify that, because we were getting a little bit of pushback, went in Amy's office and she called Chris from State Board of Accounts, and he confirmed that that has to be done. And so, and I have the item here from the State Board of Accounts stating that, if anybody wants to see it.
I'd like for you to read that, please.
It says, all claims, invoices, receipts, accounts payable, vouchers, including those presented to the governing body for approval in accordance with IC 5-11-10, should contain adequate detailed documentation. All claims, invoices, receipts, and accounts payable, vouchers regarding reimbursement for meals or expenses for individuals must have specific detailed information of the names of all individuals for which amounts are claimed, including the nature, name, and purpose of the business meeting to enable the governing body to authorize payment. Payments which do not have the proper itemization showing the business nature of the claim may be the personal obligation of the responsible official, employee, or other person for whom the claim is made. Sometimes we don't even know who made the claim because they're not signed. So that needs to be done, and I've asked Amy to instruct Chad not even to accept receipts anymore that are not signed and dated properly, because it's easy to do. We've done it. This is not something new. I've done this since 2004, since I've been on the council, that this is something that we've known we've had to do. So if any come before us, again, that we go through, we're going to pull the claims and we're not going to pass them, and then the interest charges or whatever will become the responsibility of the person who used the credit card or the department head, just so you all know.
I was actually going to say that because it just seems like we have the same conversation. So we thought, well, we'll make it public record that it is State Board of Accounts. It's not us. Well, I won't tell you all the things that we were told, but we will, if it is not a legal claim, by the time we go through the claims and they know that we're in there each week before our Monday, that, we will pull them. So I don't want just wanted that public record, just to back up Connie. And then also, I was also going to say that we do need to follow through, have the homeless task force come before us. And I personally, it's been a long time since I've been in the Haven House, and that's probably shameful, and that's all on me, but I don't know if any other council would like to go, but I'd like to get with him if a couple council would like to go. And
I've been quite a bit, but I'll go back. Go back with you.
The only thing I'll say is if you haven't got any calls, especially for you at large, you may, just so you know, the intersection of 62 and Utica-Sellersburg Road is closed on the south side of 62, leading back to Crystal Springs, all in that area, Old Stoner Place, all those places, and all of that traffic has been rerouted through Stony Brook to get back in there, and it has been a very busy situation over there. There's a lot of cars that flow through there, and not only do they flow through there, now they have to flow out of there across 62 and to get to 265. So not a good situation, but from what I understand, to widen that intersection, it had to be done. So I'll bring it up Wednesday at the Board of Public Works, and I'm going to see if we can't do something where we close it from 9 to 5 and at least let the morning traffic exit and the home traffic come in. But it's not been a good... I think it's been 3 weeks. It's supposed to be shut down for 3 weeks, but but you can just imagine all that traffic that flows through that intersection is now going through Stony Brook. So if you haven't got a call, just want to let you know that you may. You're going to, yeah.
I just want to thank the council for their support of the students that were here today. It's a big deal to them. Glad we were able to help. That's all I have.
I'll just make a comment about the hand-carried claims. It seems like we're starting to have more and more of the hand-carried claims, and in years past, it's been kind of the policy or expectation that it's only for emergency claims that come up at the last minute, and even in those, we try to get asked to get notified even before the meeting, so we're not caught off guard and trying to figure out at the meeting. And probably if in the future, if we have hand-carried claims, just so we know, I'll vote against bringing them, unless there's emergency, which is not an issue, because I suspect what has happened in the past, what would continue in the future, as has happened in the past, they become more and more because department heads or staff or people send them in late. So I just want to make that comment and kind of let me know ahead of time if I vote no why that might be. The second thing is, or my last thing is, just ask Scott, if you would. We talked about the recommendation to the Merit Commission. If you could convey that to them, that we're asking them if they would to try to weight the ones that they're offering up. Just somewhat convey that to them, because somebody needs to.
I'll go through their attorney.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. That's all I have.
I'm good.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.